Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build MLB edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. As always, getting ready to go over the main slate at DraftKings. Taylor already handed out some early slate picks and stacks, so hopefully that helps some people win some cash. The best way to get access to that is to join our Patreon, and you get access to our Discord too. Just $5.99 a month for everything that we do behind the Patreon wall. Here, though, we do break down each slate. Already did a video for NBA's two-game slate today, and we're going to go down the main slate here, look at the best pitchers that we like, and of course the offenses they're facing, and try to look at some stacks that stand out too. So right away, we do have some interesting options at Yankee Stadium. We have the Yankees hosting the Padres. Dylan Cease is a capable pitcher, but this year he has not been great. Struggles were pretty prevalent last year as well. And of course, he's facing a very good Yankees offense that is quite explosive, 183 collective ISO. And, they can also be pretty patient at the plate. They got the guy, Aaron Judge, who's playing quite well. Max Fried is having an amazing year, and he gets to take on the Padres. They do not strike out, and they do get a massive park upgrade. But overall here, I do like the Yankees. I always fear Cease a little bit. So I think you could play Cease because he's 8K, and the Yankees do strike out a little. But my major lean is Yankees, and I have a little bit of interest in Fried just because he's been so good. But it is still Yankee Stadium and is the Padres. So if Fried's going to be popular, I don't mind getting to the Padres a little bit.
I don't really want to pick on Fried. Ground ball pitcher, Padres lineup really not very good beyond Tatis, Machado, maybe Bogart. They do have Jackson Merrill back, but lefty not really into it. So I think Fried would be my lean between Padres or Fried. As far as Cease goes, I think he's maybe the best tournament play on the entire state, 8 flat. Nothing about his underlying numbers suggests that he's bad. He just kind of had some bad luck so far this season. Still one of the best strikeout pitchers in the league, I think, based on what he's done in previous years. He's down a little bit this season, but I'm not too concerned. The Yankees, like you said, do have strikeouts in the lineup. There's power risk, but there's always power risk. So I think my favorite play here is going to be Cease overall. And then I will not be getting into the Yankees or the Padres.
Is that an ownership play? Because Cease is coming in at sub 10% and the Yankees project to be one of the higher owned stacks. So you're just naturally going away from them because they're probably chalky?
I don't want to pick on Cease. I don't really see a need to do that. There's plenty of vulnerable pitching on this slate. So we're picking on an ace with a chalky lineup. That seems like a bad play to me. So not really into it. Cease is just wildly underpriced, also 8K flat. For a guy who's been 10K for most of the last several years. So I'm just happy to play that in a tournament and just hope he spikes a big game.
Yeah, I think the Yankees do still look good, but I do think the Cease ownership being so low kind of takes away any actual leverage on Cease. And then obviously if they do end up being one of the top 3 owned offenses, we always say going away from the chalk, it tends to be a pretty good idea when it comes to baseball. All right, over next game, we got Phillies taking on the Rays in Tampa. We got Christopher Sanchez taking on the Rays. They definitely have some strikeouts in there, and he has quite a few strikeouts himself. I definitely like Sanchez, and Shane Baz taking on the Phillies. Not a good matchup at all, but Baz against lefties, 34% K rate on the year. I do not mind getting to him, but Sanchez is the guy that I want to use in this game.
Yeah, I don't know why he's so cheap. The Rays are a good matchup. Sanchez, a pretty good ground ball guy whose strikeouts have been up this season. And then Tampa Bay is essentially a nonsense offense at this point. So no real reason not to get to Sanchez. I think he's probably the best overall pitching play on the entire slate. And he's just underpriced. Baz, not really getting there. I am getting to the Phillies a good amount. They are going into a pretty hitter-friendly park down there in Florida. Decent hitting conditions overall. It's a good lineup also. Obviously, Schwarber and Harper from the left side. Baz's strikeout stuff against lefties is way up compared to where it was before. Last season, it was 19.8% strikeout rate. This season, over 34. Don't really think that's real. So I'll just be playing the Phillies power bats here in a stack. I think the lineup's very good. They can throw plenty of lefties at him. Stott projected to hit leadoff looks decent to me. So, Philly stack is kind of what I'm all about in this one.
I mean, it is a really good park for hitting. That's been proven so far this year. So you certainly could talk me into a sprinkling of Rays for leverage because Sanchez is pulling 31% ownership. But I'm with you. Way too cheap. good Ks, and the Rays are not very scary. So certainly Sanchez. I mean, I don't mind the Phillies either for the reasons you said. Those numbers still look a little bit imposing. So it'll be interesting to see if the Phillies end up being high owned or not. Next game, we have Reds and the Braves. Hunter Green. Speaking of guys who can get strikeouts, a 33% K rate on the year. Wasn't that much worse last year, so that's legit. Taking on the Braves, they don't strike out that much, and they are a pretty competent offense. I do still lean the Hunter Green way just because the upside. Grant Holmes is not a guy I like to roster. Striking out lefties for sure this year, and he was okay last year, just not really fun. The walks are pretty out of control. That said, I don't really ever get excited for the Reds unless they're in a hitter's park. And, this is a park downgrade for them. So mostly just looking at Hunter Green here. And I guess if what's his ownership looking like? He's very chalky, 43%. So because he's that owned and because he can be kind of volatile, like I don't mind the Braves as a leverage stack at all because they're obviously capable of nuking.
Yeah, it's not a great spot, but he's probably been the best starting pitcher in baseball this season. He'll allow some power, especially to lefties. So not an amazing spot, but just the talent itself. He's arguably underpriced for what he's been, still under 10K. So I think Green is fine. You can make a case to pay down at pitching though. Like we said, Cease is cheap, Sanchez is cheap, Max Fried is cheaper than Hunter Green. I think Green's upside speaks for itself compared to Fried, but the matchup's better for Fried. So not getting a ton of Green as of now, but obviously is a fantastic standout play if you do get to him. I do think Holmes is a really good tournament play too. We've seen the strikeouts pretty consistently from him. You mentioned the wonky control, and the Reds do have some patience in the lineup, but Holmes is affordable. Not the scariest matchup of all either. So I don't mind getting to him as an SP2 in a tournament. And then, obviously the Braves are a good leverage stack if Green is owned. I'm not really looking to get to them outside of like a large field situation. And then I think you can dust in some Reds like Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, guys like that, but nowhere near a priority.
No. Like the Braves are kind of interesting, kind of as a one-off stack or maybe even just target some lefties as a small like three-man stack. But Hunter Green looks good. I'm not in love with the price or the matchup, but or the ownership, but the strikeouts are very, very nice. So a lot of upside there. The Royals game is in danger of not playing. So do you want to even go over that game? It looks like it's major PPD risk.
It's not an amazing game anyway. So, the Royals bats, I guess, would be the way to go, but they've been pretty bad. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of it for that game.
I'll say this. KC's got a 5.17 implied run total. We've been saying like every single time we talk about the Royals that they are talented and they have potential, and it is the White Sox that they're facing. So like if the game plays, the Royals would look fine. I wouldn't mind getting to them. They have a lot of cheap bats in there. Obviously, there's Bobby Witt, who's the standout. So like, yeah, the Royals are fine, but because of the weather, I'm kind of just writing off this game altogether. Orioles visiting the Twins in Minnesota. Charlie Morton is 5K. There's a reason for that, but he is facing the Twins, who are not that good. Their strikeouts in their projected lineup are not great for him, but you just never know, I guess. On the other side, you got the Orioles facing Simeon Woods Richardson. He's just kind of a dude who survives, but obviously the Orioles do have a talented offense with some power. Don't really want to play him. I guess Charlie Morton, because he's 5K flat, is in play, and you always say how bad the Twins are, so I don't mind that. I'm going to look at his ownership real quick as we go here.
Morton got demoted to the bullpen, and he threw like 20 or 30-something pitches in his last outing. So I don't know if this is like a legit start or if he's just going to be like a 3-inning opener type. So
okay.
He's cheap, but he's been horrible. He's old. I don't know if he's playable.
He's definitely been bad. All right, so with that saying, are you looking at Twins at all, or are you thinking if it's a bullpen game, just an avoid?
Yeah, I'm not really looking at anything on either side. I think Minnesota's okay just because Morton's been pretty inflammable and the Orioles bullpen has really not been any better. So I never love getting to Minnesota, but I think it's okay. Baltimore is fine too. Simeon Woods Richardson, more of a reverse splits right-hander. But the Orioles, good lineup with lefty power. His strikeouts have been way better this season against righties. I think overall he's more neutral. But lefty power like Mullins, Henderson, Rutschman, O'Hearn at the top of the lineup looks pretty good. Holiday is hit for some power. Heston Kjerstad's going to be pretty cheap. So I have interest. I think the lineup is more talented and better than it's shown this season. So a mini stack of the Orioles leaning toward the lefties, I think, is pretty appealing. And then Kobe Mayo, a good hitting prospect who has not really done any hitting since he's been in the major leagues over the last couple of years. Cheap right-handed power bat. I don't mind at all either.
Okay. Yeah, the Twins are coming in with a higher implied run total, but I do tend to agree. I would rather go to the Baltimore side. But obviously, Morton's been bad. So if he's going to be out there, you can play Twins if you so dare. We got the Tigers and the Rockies in Coors. You said yesterday going in, this game ended up being PPD. The same pitchers are out there. You said you actually would have possibly been interested in the pitching because we got some good young pitchers on the slate here. What's your interest there? And do you want to be overweight on Coors bats tonight?
I think I'll be over on the Rockies. I think their matchup is just better. Jackson Jobe is a good prospect, but he has not actually been good in the major league so far. And it is Coors. Like the Rockies are horrible, but it's Coors. They do have some okay hitters: Doyle, Jordan Beck, Hunter Goodman, a good power hitting catcher, Tolia. And then McMahon has been horrible this season, but historically he's a decent lefty bat. So I think as of now, Colorado is my favorite stack on the entire slate. Assuming the Tigers are going to be the more owned side of this game against Dollander, another young pitcher who actually has been pretty good so far this season, but Detroit does have a lot of power to throw at him. It's Coors. You can always make a case for this. If you're going to stack the Tigers, I just think you have to get different with one of your pitching slots or your secondary stack.
Dollander's really gotten his tits lit, though, a little bit from the left side. Giving up a lot of hard contacts and walking a bit too many guys. So here's the thing. It is Coors. Obviously, you can play the Tigers. I do tend to be with you whenever we talk about this because the Rockies still have a decent implied run total, and they're just not going to be his own. Just by default, when the Rockies are at home, people look at the team visiting them because obviously that team is facing the Rockies, but also they get a massive park upgrade from wherever they were. So I think you can play Tigers and Rockies, but if you want to get some leverage, I think the Rockies do stand out a little bit more. We got, one more game? Yeah, Toronto is visiting the Angels. We got Jose Barrios taking on the Angels. No Mike Trout still. They do have some strikeouts in their lineup for sure. They do have a lot of righties, which Barrios has struggled against this year. Usually he's kind of neutral, I think, maybe leaning lefties. But they are, I guess they do have some switch hitters here too. So maybe I'm wrong there. On the other side, we have the Toronto against Kikuchi. You say Kikuchi. I say the Jays look pretty damn good.
Please never do that again. I think Toronto is
literally every time Kikuchi's on the slate.
I've never heard you say that.
Yeah, well, you're gonna hear it again because I will say it again.
That was disappointing. I think Toronto, while bad and usually not a very fun stack, is a really good one today. Kikuchi always has allowed right-handed power. This season he's been elite against lefties and not elite against righties at all.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto, two lefties in the projected lineup, Varsho and Jimenez. Guerrero, George Springer, Kirk, I think are the standouts. Bo Bichette used to be a good player. I don't know what happened to him, but I'm going to be playing him tonight, hoping he can turn back the clock. I love this stack. I think it's a great spot for Toronto to get a nice park boost going into Anaheim. So I'm all about it. I think paying down at pitching and, up for the Colorado side and the Toronto side for bats looks pretty good. You can still fit these guys in if you do pay for Hunter Green. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Toronto stack looks good. I think you can get a dusting of the Angels. Like Barrios is not overpowering. Lefty power historically has been better, but the Angels are pretty right-handed. So Taylor Ward, I think, stands out. Jorge Soler, power from the right side. Ohapi, pretty good hitting catcher. So bats in this game for me, none of the pitching.
Yeah, I think Barrios is okay. But I do think the Angels are an offense that I'd like to get over the field on, just because his problem against righties so far this year is pretty staggering. Not even Trout kind of dilutes that a little bit. So I'm more Jays than Halos for sure. I feel like though every single time the Blue Jays are chalk, they completely bust. So definitely
they're not good.
No.
The thing about Barrios is he's 8,500, and you can get Dylan Cease, you can get Christopher Sanchez, you can get Grant Holmes all for less. So I really don't see a case to play Barrios on this slate. Like, I know it's the Angels, but not for me if he's going to be owned at all.
That is totally fair. All right, let's wrap it up with our number one pitcher and our number one stack of the slate.
Number one pitcher is going to be Sanchez. I think he's too cheap. The matchup is good. For tournaments, I love Dylan Cease, like we talked about. And then top stack, probably Colorado, followed closely by Toronto, which sounds horrible coming out of my mouth, and I wish I hadn't said it in public for people to see. But I do think they're good stacks on the slate in good spots. So that's kind of where I'm leaning as of now.
Yeah, I think for tournaments, though, I think the Braves are pretty interesting. Hunter Green's a really good pitcher, but he's going to be crazy owned, and the Braves do have a lot of power, especially coming from the left side. I wouldn't go insane with the Braves here, but I think for a tournament stack, they're really interesting. But otherwise, I'm with you here. The Jays and Coors, that's what looks the best on this slate right now. You mentioned the Phillies earlier. They also look good in the Orioles and the Twins game. That is one of the more competitive games in terms of implied run total on the entire slate. And as far as pitching goes, I also don't disagree. I'm not as excited to play Dylan Cease. I do still tend to lean Yankees there. But as we know with Yankees, they're a lot like the Jays. If everybody's on the Yankees, they do absolutely nothing. That's just what they tend to do. It's mostly Christopher Sanchez starting there with SP1, which is kind of funny since he's 7.5K. That said, that does it for us. Hopefully this helps you out. If it does, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider visiting our Patreon, just $5.99 a month to get access to everything, including our Discord. Thanks for watching, and good luck.